What's up, Acolyte Squad? My name is Prince, and I'm an urban acolyte. Hey, man, Rosario, Dawson, and Dave Filoni did an incredible interview with the homie Anthony Bresnikan over at Vanity Fair. Has he always been with Vanity Fair? He used to be with Entertainment Weekly. Well, anyway, he's with Vanity Fair now, and like, there's so much to this article that I feel like I just need to go through it with you guys. I started reading some of it and I was like, I don't even know how to summarize this. So I just need to share the article with the Acolyte Squad and go off the dome, share my thoughts on it. Before we get to the article though, I just wanted to comment on the Acolyte Fitness Challenge for December. I know I kind of said it at the end of yesterday's video, but now I kind of thought about it. I'm going to tweak it. So the free fitness challenge, we're doing 6,000 kettlebell swings. That's just 200 kettlebell swings a day. So the way you do it, you do your swings. Look, you post your reps. You can either get a video of yourself, take a picture of wherever you're counting it. Like I put my reps on the whiteboard, post that to an Instagram story and tag me in it. I will reshare it so everybody in the community can see. And if you want to do a bonus, look, take your weight today, the beginning of December, whatever day you start this week, take your weight, measure yourself, keep track of those measurements, and then do it again at the end of the month. And hopefully you see some improvements, right? So that's how this free 6,000 swing kettlebell challenge is going to work in the month of December. So make sure you tag me on social media, because I'm interested in seeing your progress too, right? I talk about starting the journey to become the hero of your own story. Start that journey, do those kettlebell swings, tag me in it, because I want to be part of your fitness journey as well, right? So let's dive into this interview. All right, so the Mandalorian Rosario Dawson tells all about Ahsoka Tano. She also responds to some of the backlash and feedback that's been going on in the Star Wars community the last few days or weeks, right? For some people, but most of it started on Friday after things they didn't like about the episode happened. And here's a pretty dope shot. Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano with the two lightsabers, and this is the first time we've seen a Shoto lightsaber in live action. So I feel like they nailed it. You know, I know some people, she doesn't have the same energy that Ahsoka Tano ought to have. They should have used Ashley Eckstein. Ashley Eckstein is like 5'2". She wouldn't. I mean, even I said I don't think Ashley would make a good live action Ahsoka. What I said in the beginning, when I was not quite sure about Rosario Dawson, when the fans were pushing that narrative, was that I felt like they should just bring in a stunt promoter, somebody like oh man, I've been talking her up too, because she hangs out with Laura Mary Kim. What's her name? She's a stunt chick. She doubled for Harley Quinn and Scarlett Johansson and Black Widow. I can't think of her name. Amy Johnson. Amy Johnson looks similar to Ashley Eckstein. I thought they should have brought in, or if you had asked me last year, I would have said, look, bring in somebody like Amy Johnson, who kind of looks like Ashley Eckstein, put her in the makeup and everything. You have her as the live action person and have Ashley come in and do the voiceovers later, right? So just the same way they did with Maul, right? You got Ray Park as Maul, but then you got your homie, what's his name? I don't know why I'm forgetting people's names. Probably because I need to go ahead and dive into the interview. But y'all know the dude that voices Maul and voiced Darth Sidious too. Oh, look, there's Gal Gadot wants to teach you Hebrew slang. All right, so Star Wars fans have likely all seen the photo of George Lucas on the set of The Mandalorian cradling Baby Yoda like a proud grandfather. But there's something about that slightly blurry snapshot that they don't know. Just out of frame stood another beloved galactic figure who until then had only existed in animation, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. Her casting was long rumored online, but no one else got to see her as the Force wielder with the blue and white head tails and twin lightsabers until last Friday's new episode of the Disney Plus series. That chapter, The Jedi, not only unveiled the live-action grown-up version of the Clone Wars and Rebels hero, but also dropped new information about Baby Yoda's past and hinted at another fan favorite Star Wars figure, Grand Admiral Thrawn, who may appear in the future. Dawson and Dave Filoni, the writer-director of the episode who developed Ahsoka with Lucas during their years working together in animation, spoke exclusively with Vanity Fair about the biggest revelations, from the child's name and backstory to the reason for setting the story on a wildfire-stricken planet. Dawson also addressed the lingering personal controversy that has concerned many fans of Ahsoka. First, we start where all Star Wars tales begin. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Vanity Fair. So Anthony, I'm just going to say Anthony because he's the one asking the questions. Asking, where am I getting this sudden New Yorker accent? I guess because I'm talking about Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka Tano. I guess I'm picking up, I guess I'm getting my Jersey accent back. I bet y'all didn't even know I used to live in Jersey when I was a little kid. If I'm not mistaken, isn't Rosario from up around that area? Maybe we used to hang out at the YMCA in Newark back in 86, 87, right? So anyway, where did it begin with Rosario playing Ahsoka? When did this concept first come to you both? Rosario, actually it first came from fans online. Someone tweeted me and fan cast me. I retweeted back and I was like, absolutely, yes, please. And hashtag Ahsoka lives. And apparently that got the attention of someone who has been doing the Star Wars press for years. She forwarded it to Dave Filoni. That kind of started a whole thing. And I was like, oh my goodness, did I just get fan cast in something? And then nothing happened. Dave Filoni. That was the first time, and I looked at Rosario and I thought, yeah, I think maybe she would make a good Ahsoka. I just kept loosely aware of what she was up to, and she was doing some Marvel things, but I'd seen interviews with her where she would talk about wanting to play the character and her excitement, so it was interesting. And people might assume that when she was asked that, it was already in the works. Dave Filoni, oh no, not at all. I was still trying to figure out how to get off Tatooine myself at that point. But when I started working with Jon Favreau, I'd bring up the character and he's like, well, who are you thinking of playing her? And I said, well, Rosario Dawson's top of my list. And he's like, I know her. So immediately that starts to fit really well. Rosario, people have been fan casting me on all kinds of things like She-Hulk and stuff. And I always just think it's really fun because I get to see myself in different kinds of art. But then I got a FaceTime call from Jon Favreau and Dave. They were building out The Mandalorian, and I got to have behind the scenes look at visuals and concepts from what they were planning on doing with the second season. Well, when was this? They were just about to drop that first one, and they had all of this art that had me as Ahsoka. They had already been preparing, knowing that they wanted to have her be part of a story in the second season. They'd just been visualizing me in this role that whole time, and it was mind-boggling. What was it like seeing yourself in concept art as this alien warrior? Dawson, Rosario, I actually was glad because I had really bad reception, and so I ended up just going to the audio. So I was pacing and jumping up and down, trying to keep really cool in my voice, but I was freaking out. I mean, this is real Star Wars. The font, the look, the art, the everything, and my face in there. I couldn't. I was beside myself, and they were asking, look, do you want to do this? I mean, we appreciate it if that's not something you want to do. And I was like, oh, no, that would be cool, actually. I think we could maybe work this out. Trying to play it cool, but I was sweating. The Anakin connection. So were you a fan already? Dawson, I'd seen some Clone Wars, and once I got the role, I actually went and started watching everything in its order. I started seeing a lot more of the connective tissue. There was always that conversation around Ahsoka leaving the Order, and that being a major trigger for Anakin going toward the dark side. it was just really incredible that the character started off as a teenager, you know? Ahsoka stands out as the first lead female Jedi in Star Wars storytelling. What did you connect with personally? Dawson, I found it so fascinating that there was this whole other world that existed in the animated series, and this young girl was the heart of that space. I had a particular kind of interest in her and in that character because when I first started acting at 15, I did this movie, Kids, and I got paid like $1,000 to work on it. When the movie came out, I decided at 16 that I wanted to continue pursuing acting. My dad's mom said, well, if you're going to do that and you're 16 years old, then you need to study acting, and put me in Strasbourg. And it happened to be that summer when Hayden Christensen was in. We had the same class. And you later worked together, right? Rosario, we ended up doing this movie together years later called Shattered Glass, and I always just thought it was really cool that I knew someone who was not just in Star Wars, but played Anakin Skywalker. Ahsoka was his Padawan, so when the fan casting came out, I just thought it was pretty wild that I visually connected to this character from being this teenager who met this actor who ended up being this great character. And I don't know, it just felt like the Force was at play. Filoni, when I was first exploring the possibility of directing live action, I asked Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy about casting, and when you knew someone was right for the part, she thought about it and said, you just know. And she was right. When I met Rosario, I just knew she was right for Ahsoka. Yes, there was the tweet and her interest in the part. Yes, she's been in action movies and is a huge fan of sci-fi and fantasy stories. Yes, she knew Hayden Christensen, and pictures of them together look like Anakin and Ahsoka. But in the end, when I met her and we talked, I just knew. Speaking of casting, can you share any insights into choosing stunt legend Diana Lee Inosanto as the robber baron magistrate and Michael Biehn as her enforcer? Filoni, I needed the performance from the magistrate to challenge Ahsoka and be someone that could go toe to toe with her instantly. Diana brings such experience and knowledge about martial arts to her performance. The instant she takes up the Beskar spear, you can tell that she is a lethal opponent. For me, as a director, it was a great advantage to have someone of Diana's skill and experience with fight choreography as one of the main players, especially for the final battle in the courtyard. And Biehn, he's had his share of battling in both space and the Old West. That moment came when I penned this script and created an experienced gunslinger to go up against Mando. Michael's experience and understanding of the language of Westerners were really valuable on the set. He had a whole philosophy about how his gunslinger would attempt to go up against someone like Mando, which we wove into his scenes. He thinks of every detail, even the number of times he would fire his weapon. In both Michael and Diana, I had two people who knew their characters. They brought so much to the roles through their personal skills and experiences. As the villains of the story, I felt we had a good matchup of Mando and Ahsoka versus the Magistrate and her gunslinger. So creating Ahsoka's look, here was some controversy. So can you describe the process of adapting Ahsoka from drawings and animation to real life? What has to change? Dave, it was a pretty amazing thing as we designed the costume and worked out all the details of that. Everything I considered to an unbelievable degree. The head tails, the horns, I can't even tell you. It's hard. It's so rare a person in my position from animation gets to craft and guide the character's jump to live action. Rosario, what I loved about the Togruta is that they have these facial markings, but they're all different on all of the different women that we've seen. In the cartoon, it almost looks like face paint, but Filoni really wanted it to come off as very natural. Filoni, many tests were done, screen tests, because within the volume, the Mandalorian set that creates backgrounds on a giant digital screen, it will tend to lean magenta. You have to worry about how a character like Ahsoka would look because the temperature that we have her orange could be dramatically different in the volume than in the stage shots. So there were tiny little considerations that had to be made and adjusted. Rosario, they definitely wanted the makeup to be very warm and natural. In the animation, it's very different and bold, and the lighting is just so different. But in the real world, they wanted it to have a different kind of energy. it was fun to be able to see how that shifted when she had the lightsabers closer to her face, and how you see it and feel it differently in the different lighting and the smoke. How do you make sure that the makeup and headpieces don't get in the way of the performance? Filoni, yes, it's tricky. That was one of the big considerations. Performance-wise, I don't want her to be lost in all of this headgear and makeup, but she definitely is not. I kept things subtle in some ways with the markings. I mean, the funny thing is that the white markings over the brow are always done in animation to give an eyebrow performance. I didn't want brightly saturated characters. Again, in animation it works, but in live action, I think it works another way, and so you just have to play with the values and see. There's a lot of lightsaber fighting in this episode too. Was that a consideration with the head-tail prosthetics? Rosario, everything was pretty firmly on. Everything was built specifically to my skull and body, and the headband that she has on with the tails actually clips in the back and holds it in place. We were doing stunts in it and everything, and it wasn't going anywhere. What else had to happen as part of the transformation into Ahsoka? Filoni, I said, well, Ahsoka's eyes are blue and yours are not, but I don't want you to worry about it. If you don't want to go for that, we can just say that in this version they're not. And Rosario insisted. She's like, no, let me try it. Rosario, I remember when I put the contacts on, that was when it really solidified. The headpiece, the tails, the shape, the coloring, everything. Doing the face marking, doing my skin, wearing the costume, all of that was absolutely incredible. But I still kind of felt like I was in cosplay. The second the contacts went in, it was Ahsoka. I felt like I disappeared. Like, remember, I don't think Saw Gerrera in Rogue One looked exactly like he does, in Rebels, and even in Fallen Order. I don't think that Forrest Whitaker had the green eyes in live action, but he does in the animation, right? Y'all can check me on that. I could be wrong, but I think there were a lot of people who were, pointing that out. His eyes aren't green. His eyes aren't green. So, there's a difference between how they look in live action versus animation. And the way that I think Lucasfilm explains it is each story, it's a form of canon. Yes, it's canon, but it's being told in a different medium. This is something that we used to talk about in seminary, right? When we talk about different books in the Bible, different types of scripture, when you start getting into the specific genre, because when you look at I can't say holy scripture because I don't know every holy book out there, but in the Bible, right, which means the books, which means each individual book. Each time you read a passage, you have to ask who is the narrator, right? The narrator who tells the first creation story might not necessarily be the same narrator who tells the second creation story, which is the Adam and Eve narrative. And if you didn't know, I hope I didn't cause anybody to start to question their religion, that maybe they didn't know there's two creation stories in the book of Genesis. Throughout Genesis, the different books, the different narratives, the different literary genres that are within just that one book. And there are multiple types, right? You have to ask who's the narrator, right? So maybe the narrator who's telling the story in Fallen Order is a different narrator telling the story in Rebels or in the Clone Wars or the Mandalorian, and that narrator is going to describe these characters differently. That's why stuff like this is never an issue for me. Like I said, that, because I've had to, we're in the West, we're talking about the Bible, and I have a completely different way of looking at the Bible than the average person, because, that's what I went to school for, right? Even in knowing that if I take it to a different religion, I still have that academic understanding. And that's really how I look at Star Wars too. That's why a lot of times I'm like, what's the big deal? What's the issue? Why are you making a big deal out of this? And, you know, my bro Geekdom was like, well, for some people, this is their religion, man. You got to understand it. I'm like, well, if it's their religion, maybe they need to approach it like a religion and dive in deep and get to understand why things are the way they are, understand storytelling, right? And that each time they watch something, there's a different storyteller telling that story, and a whole host of things can change based on who the storyteller is, based on who the narrator is, right? But now we're getting into the original storyteller, George Lucas. So the George Lucas encounter. We heard a lot of stories about Werner Herzog being obsessed with Baby Yoda when he was on the show last season. I wondered, Rosario, what it's like to be around. I guess after this episode, we can call him Grogu now. Maybe I should call him the artist formerly known as Baby Yoda. Rosario, it built it up for me. Like, what is it going to be like when I get on set? And actually, some of the guys who worked with Grogu were folks I had met before because they worked on Men in Black 2 with the Worm guys. So it's like these people have been doing this for a really long time. And there's several different guys, and one controls the ears, the other one the eyes, and the arms are moving. You're holding this adorable, unbelievably cute, tiny little creature, and it's blinking. It's looking at you, and its mouth is moving, and its ears are moving, and it's so soft, and the little hairs on its head. I mean, it's unbelievable. I completely was with Warner. I understood what he was going on about. You also got to meet up with George Lucas on set. I actually got to be there on the day that there's that photo. Someone took a picture of George Lucas holding Baby Yoda. I'm still calling him Baby Yoda. Grogu. I was there that day. I was all dressed up. I was just off to the side in that photo, all done up as Ahsoka. And I remember it broke the internet when that picture came out. It was just an amazing, amazing moment. And we were all beside ourselves. It was definitely very geek out. I don't see her. What was your experience with George? Rosario, I was definitely nerve-wracked, and it was great to be there with him and Dave. I mean, it's a lot of pressure, but it was also really fun. Both of them were looking at me, but they weren't. You know what I mean? They were looking at their imaginations come to life. Ahsoka's spirit. Fans have watched Ahsoka grow up on the Clone Wars, and they've seen her go off on her own, seen her fighting as a lone wolf in Rebels. What did you want to reveal about her at this point, much later in her life? Dave, she is, for lack of a term, a master because she's largely an independent at this point. I play her much more as a knowledgeable knight. A wandering samurai character is what she really is at this point. I've always made comparisons to her heading toward the Gandalf stage, where she is the one that has the knowledge of the world and can help others through it. I think she's reached that point. So is she like Gandalf the Grey? Because we were saying she was Gandalf the White, but then when we see the episode, she's still wearing gray. I wonder if Dave is going to comment on that. Let's find out. Dave, so how would you describe her overall journey, right? And to the folks, how would you describe her overall journey? Here we are. We're talking about the hero with 1,000 faces again, the hero's journey. And I just realized I'm on the small camera, so let me put that closer. Do you see it? Do you see it? How would you describe her overall journey at this point? Where is she? So we saw her basically hit the scene as a Padawan, young and naive and brash and aggressive. Then in Rebels, she's more of a traditional knight, trying to figure out how to fight a war. There's a lot of hesitation around what she wants to be and who she can be and how her life's been guided. I think that now I've taken that a step further. When you see this version of the character, she's world weary from everything that she's experienced and lived through. She's seen so much happen in her time. The episode is called The Jedi, but Ahsoka's whole identity is based around leaving the Order. Dave, yeah, I think something fans like about the character is that she's rather complex. They all focus very hard on the line, "I am no Jedi," from Star Wars Rebels, but it's undeniable that she's trained by the Jedi. I think to most observers, she is very Jedi to them. I would argue in some ways, by being so selfless and rejecting a lot of paths that would have given her power, she's more Jedi-like than even some characters who claim to be Jedi, like Mace Windu. Rosario, I love that she is this wanderer character who is going to just do good in the universe. The Jedi Order has disappeared in many ways. It's so fractured, and so many people are targeted. She's lost so much. She had left that order under duress, and she's just been finding her way. And since the very beginning, the way that has been pulling her is to be vigilant and to be brave and to be wise and to always have her eyes set on rooting out evil. And I think that one of the reasons why so many love her, it's why I love her. She represents truly the best of the Jedi, you know? Here's a controversial question. Ashley Eckstein gave voice to the character for so many years. What impact did she have on the live action version? Rosario, Ashley did a remarkable job. You've seen this character first come into our hearts and minds as a teenager and then evolve, and Ashley has been there the entire way. Seeing how her voice changed, how her energy changed, and hear the maturity develop in her was just so powerful and so beautiful. I studied it like crazy, and I tried my best to honor that, and it was just incredible to be able to have such an in-depth performance to source. Dave, Ashley's fantastic, and I think that the character she played, Ahsoka as the young Padawan apprentice, and then going into Rebels, obviously made its mark. Plus the animation team who made this Padawan such a household name among Star Wars fans. It's a pretty magic thing, and it speaks to how well crafted the character is by that group. I wrote pretty much all of her character from when she's 14 all the way up through this, and normally someone in my position wouldn't get to do that. It would have changed hands several times. So the real life controversy. Ahsoka does mean a great deal to people, and they're deeply invested in who she is. So Rosario, I want to ask you about something that's outside of this story, The Mandalorian, and that's the concern in the fandom about a lawsuit that was filed against you last year by a longtime family friend. The claim accused you and other family members of anti-trans bias, and you've called the lawsuit false and baseless. But what do you say to those Star Wars fans who hear this and believe the worst, that you are transphobic? Rosario, well, firstly, I just want to say I understand that and why people were concerned and are concerned. I would be too if I heard some of those claims. But I mean, as we're seeing right now in these past months, and just recently actually, the truth is coming out. Every single claim of discrimination has been dismissed by the person who made them. And as you've said, the fact that this is coming from someone I've known since I was a teenager, the better part of my life, and who my family was trying to help, as we have many times in the past, it really just makes me sad. But I still have a great empathy for him. Court records show 18 of the 20 claims were withdrawn voluntarily without a settlement, and his lawyer left the case. 2 counts remain alleging a physical altercation, and a judge will rule on whether that can move forward next month. There are people that would say, well, this is just another example of a wealthy, famous person overpowering the system. So what would you say to those people who are unconvinced, both about this case and about what you actually believe about trans people? Rosario, the reason that all of the discrimination claims were dropped is because they didn't happen. I was raised in a very inclusive and loving way, and that's how I've lived my entire life. I've always used my voice to fight for, lift up, and empower the LGBTQA community, and use my platform to channel trans voices in fiction and non-fiction work that I produced and directed. So I feel the record is really clear. Personal elements. For the roles that mean the most to actors, they often talk about carrying a part with them beyond the performance. You put yourself into a character and then you take a little with you. What would you say you take home from playing Ahsoka? Rosario, that the journey isn't always easy, that it isn't always clear, and it isn't about magic, you know? To make things how you want them to be, it takes work and diligence and love to really make the difference. And I believe everybody has those powers, and everybody has to continue trying. It's not like you become a Jedi and then that's it, you're good. They have to keep making that choice. Oh, Star Wars Theory, you need to read this part. What does she say again? To make things how you want them to be, it takes work and diligence and love to really make the difference. And I believe everybody has those powers, and everybody has to continue trying. It's not like you become a Jedi and then that's it, you're good. They have to keep making that choice. So that's the whole Star Wars Theory doesn't understand what Freddie Prinze Jr. said. Like, it's not like you just become a Jedi and that's it. Like, you never stop going. There's always a deeper level to your training. There's always deeper levels to your awareness, is what my Sifu Sam F.S. Chin says, the greatest living Kung Fu master of our generation. I'm not just saying that to say it. It's true. If you don't believe me, then maybe you need to introduce yourself to Ili Chin, right? I've been talking about it on his channel for 4 years, 5 years. This channel and its older iteration, right? Change with the change. All this stuff I talk about being here, that comes from Sifu Sam. Y'all need to get up on it, right? You listen to him, you'll think you're listening to Yoda in the real world. But anyway, let's get back to this. So Dave, in writing the episode, you set it on a forest world that has been turned into a scorched wasteland. I expected to find Ahsoka somewhere lush like the first moon of Endor or Yoda swamp world of Dagobah, but instead you brought us to a cinder. Dave, in all honesty, that just comes out of my own personal experience living in an area in Northern California where there are fires. My wife and I have been evacuated 3 of the last 4 years every fall. So I guess I'm just telling a story and can some way control it for myself. But yeah, I've known a lot of people that are terribly affected by it, and it's a powerful, powerful thing. It's beautiful in its way, but also terrifying. I just thought it would be really haunting. There's a foreboding feeling, I think, through the episode and that transpires in it. So it's got its magic moments. Where you see life in the sets and where you don't is part of the story. Most of the sets are dead and burnt, but then when you encounter Ahsoka, there's a little bit of green and life around her. That's all just emblematic, little visual cues that you can tell to reinforce story points. Is it a blessing or a curse for Ahsoka to have these powers? Rosario, it's a gift, but it's one that requires discipline, and we all have gifts, but we're not all very disciplined. And I think that she is such a strong reminder of what that looks like to be that steadfast, to be that clear, and not to do it because she's got all the support and love and company, but because she knows deep inside of her, this is who she is and what she is meant to do. And this is her purpose. And she is going to honor that every single day and choose it every single day, even when it's hard or not. She advises stepping away from the Force completely in this episode when it comes to the baby. Rosario, you saw that with Anakin's story, and you see that with Ahsoka as well. She recognizes that. That's why she brings it up with the child as well. He has these incredible abilities, and you've seen him be able to wield the Force. He's been trained in the Jedi Temple, but as she says, because of his attachment, it makes him vulnerable to fear, which makes him vulnerable to anger, which means that he could be dangerous. That means maybe we should just let this Force sensitivity just wane, you know? So the Baby Yoda revelations. Look at little cute Grogu. So what's the story behind Grogu, the name of our little green friend? Dave, the name has been around for a while. John told me early on in season 1 what it would be, which made me start to think about how people could learn the name. This gave me the idea that Ahsoka, who was very compassionate, would be able to connect with the child, and that without words they could probably communicate through memories and experiences. Through that connection, she learns the name and then tells Mando and the audience. Like Rey in The Force Awakens, the Mandalorian doesn't really know the full Star Wars story. He has no idea who Yoda is. Is that why you turn to Ahsoka for this? So she can say, oh yeah, I know what this thing is. It's a baby yaddle. Dave, no, that would have been the best moment ever. That's the way I should have gone with it. Again, I thought one of the most compelling things about introducing Ahsoka is that she is one of the few people that we can encounter in a story and she would say, all right, I met someone like him. I've only ever seen one other being like this. I had to stop myself from doing something ridiculous like have her say, is that a Yoda baby? It almost demands to be said. She invokes his name if there's another illusion. Dave, she sees this child and names the name Yoda for the first time on our show. Composer Ludwig Göransson does a really masterful thing where the music just for a moment becomes John Williams' Yoda theme. I'm gonna have to go back and listen for that. Those are those little overlapping moments that I just love, and it's why I've always insisted on using Star Wars music so fleetingly, because you don't want that unless you're talking about that character. It's their music. We had an opportunity to just give it a little grace moment. It's their spirit, right? When that music plays, yeah, the feeling of it, it's just an acknowledgement to that great performance by Frank Oz and the great character design. There's no way that the name Yoda Baby wasn't going to happen, just given the stature of Yoda himself. So I think it's a nice nod to the history. We can honor people who really put this thing on the map. Why was now the right time to reveal the baby's backstory and origin? Dave, I felt that if anyone would know or understand the child's history, it would be Ahsoka. She has such a long history as well. By having her relate the story, it helps the viewer to understand some of her own backstory. This is similar to when Obi-Wan tells Luke about his father's history. Through the story about Anakin, you were getting a look at Obi-Wan and his backstory as well. A lot of the campfire scene, as we call it, is shaped around that scene between Obi-Wan and Luke in A New Hope. Ahsoka fears the worst, which is how we get her line to the Mandalorian that hints at Anakin's turn into Darth Vader. Rosario, she knows what could happen if you go even remotely to the dark side. I love that she throws a line in this about Anakin. She knows what could happen even to the best of us when fear and anger take root, and she's so vigilant about that. She's a lonely character, I think, but the Force is compelling her to just continue to do good. Dave, she wants to do good and help people, but rather than do it like the Jedi did, which was all wound up in the politics of the Republic, she's doing it on an individual basis in the galaxy. Plus, she has a larger quest, which is always more fun when they have a larger quest. That quest, we learn, is a search for the villain Grand Admiral Thrawn. The last time fans saw Ahsoka was this spring's finale of the Clone Wars, but in the actual Star Wars chronology, the last time we saw her was at the end of Rebels, venturing off with Sabine Wren to find Ezra Bridger, who vanished along with Thrawn. Where does that scene fit in with where we find her in The Mandalorian? Dave Filoni, right, but no, it's an interesting one. That's not necessarily chronological. I think the thing that people will most not understand is they want to go in a linear fashion. But as I learned as a kid, nothing in Star Wars really works in a linear fashion. You do episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3. So in the vein of that history, when you look at the epilogue of Rebels, you don't really know how much time has passed. So it's possible that the story that I'm telling in The Mandalorian actually takes place prior to that. Possible. I'm saying it's possible. All right, so that was the article, and it ends on an interesting note. That's probably what is blowing up on YouTube right now. It's blowing up all over social media. And I can't remember if I asked that question in a video dealing with Ahsoka and the Mandalorian last week, but I started to think the same thing. Like, when is this happening? Especially given the fact that we don't see Sabine Wren. There's no mention of Captain Rex. What has Ahsoka been doing after we last saw her return to Mandalore? The fact that she's still wearing the grays that we saw her wearing in Rebels prior to what I'm calling Ahsoka the White. Dave Filoni mentions the Gandalf thing. Just me right now, haven't seen this, read this to you guys. That's a huge question that we're just going to have to sit with until we get some official announcement or something. But I think that, Ahsoka hung out on Malachor for a bit. Ezra's last words to her were, "Come find me." That was the last words exchanged between the two of them. I thought it was Ezra who said it to Ahsoka. It could have been the other way around. Like, this is off the dome, so I can't go back and check and then, put it in the script and edit the video together. And I think that some kind of way, maybe Ahsoka been in communication with Sabine. Sabine's on Lothal, hanging out, watching over things, waiting for Ezra to show up. We don't know. But I think that after a while, she heard that about the rebellion and Thrawn is missing and Ezra had something to do with that. Maybe she had been in communication with Sabine. We don't get that in the epilogue to Rebels. But I think she's out tapping, knocking on doors, kicking doors down, trying to trace leads right? So maybe it's the case that the magistrate hadn't been in recent communication with Thrawn, but that they had that relationship, that maybe the magistrate had actually did have something to do with Thrawn's projects on Lothal, maybe some way, shape, or form. She was funding that, as you know, she used her hate and anger to help the Imperial to build an Imperial Starfleet or whatever. She played a part in that, from what Ahsoka says, and the fact that Thrawn is called her master, where's your master? Where's Thrawn? That's an interesting way to describe their relationship. But I think that maybe at this point Ahsoka's knocking on doors, trying to figure out clues. And when she shows up there to get Sabine, it's like, yo, I know exactly where we need to go. I've been, I've walked in this beaten path, and now we're getting ready to go do the thing. We're on our way to go get Ezra for real, not we're going to look for him. I know where to go in wild space. We're going to the Chiss Ascendancy. We're dealing with the Chiss fleet, and we're about to get involved in something. And that's why Ahsoka's different. She's Ahsoka the White. Her character is on a new journey. Maybe she's at the point now where I'm going to get Ezra and I'm going to be the mentor, the wise mentor, right? I'm no longer Gandalf the Grey. I'm no longer the wandering Ronin, right? That now I'm the master, right? Leroy, right? She's got her glow, and she's ready to pass that on to somebody else, right? So, I never felt like Ahsoka was going to train Grogu, that she was going to take Grogu, because that's not her path. She's got a mission. She didn't really say it to Din Djarin that, I can't take him because I got to go. I'm looking for Ezra, right? I don't know what state he's in right now. I have my mission, just like you have your mission. Your mission is to deliver him to a Jedi. Now your mission is to make sure he gets trained as a Jedi, if that's his choice. But there's a Jedi out there that I've connected with, and I need to find out where he is. Is he all right? What's he up to? Where does he stand in relation to the Force right now, if he's still, among the living? And that, I really need to put out this Ezra Bridger video, because what I just said, if, Ahsoka having been Anakin's Padawan, right? When we talk about lineage, right? And we talk about the Skywalker lineage and through the Chosen One, I'm going to end this video on this thought right here. The prophecy is through the Chosen One, balance is restored to the Force, through the Chosen One. And this hits it. The mofo who told me I was delusional for thinking Dave Filoni could fix the sequel saga because it's already written, right? You need to listen, because I don't just say things just to say them. I choose my words carefully, right? I said the Filoni verse runs parallel with the Skywalker saga. And in many places it fixes things, right? The Filoni verse, meaning the Clone Wars, which Dave worked on with George, and then Rebels, which was Dave's, right? And now, Favreau is doing the Mandalorian, but it's part of the Filoni verse. I have a feeling that Dave Filoni is heavily involved with the Obi-Wan Kenobi, 4-hour movie that we're going to get next year, next year, I'm thinking. So, and Hayden Christensen is supposed to be in that, right? So we're going to get more about live action stuff that we didn't get in the prequel movies, dealing with the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan, right? And maybe Obi-Wan going back and thinking, where did I go wrong with Anakin? Right? As he slowly has to let go of what he sees as his failure, right? And it becomes acceptance. Okay, I've accepted this, and now I've got to channel this into my training so that I can become, there's always a deeper level. I'm not just a Jedi master. I've got to go even further, right? My own path, so that I can help Luke and whoever comes after Luke if Luke is successful, because remember, we're thinking from the point of view of Obi-Wan 5 to 10 years after the events in Revenge of the Sith, when he first arrives on Tatooine and hands off little baby Luke to Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, right? So Dave Filoni with the Filoniverse, this is running parallel with the movies. Through the chosen, I'm feeling some weird magnetism between my hands because I've been doing my standing Qigong, so I haven't felt that in a while. Weird. The force is real. I'm joking, but I'm not joking, but I am joking. Y'all need to get up on that Qigong standing meditation. You need to be following me on Instagram, at Urban Acolyte, because you can literally see some of the training that I was doing 2 years ago when I was back in the US. But anyway, I'm ending on this note. Through the chosen one, balance can be restored. If Ahsoka plays a part in Ezra's continuing development, then that means that Ezra is also fulfilling the prophecy. Through the chosen one, balance is restored, right? We see balance restored all through the chosen one, through the offspring of the chosen one. Luke and Leia train Rey. Rey becomes takes the Skywalker name. Rey is the last Jedi left as far as we know, from a certain point of view, right? From the point of view of this is the Skywalker saga. But what about these other Jedi who survived the Purge? And there's an interesting tweet that was on Twitter about that. That'll have to be its own video, its own little off the dome discussion, then, because I'm kind of bumping into something I want to talk about later. But Ezra could be doing the work of the chosen one if Ahsoka finds him, if she mentors him, if she plays a part in his continuing story. Through the chosen one, balance can be restored. How does that involve Baby Yoda, Grogu? I don't know. Grogu has his own story, right? And we just have to leave it at that. We have to just wait and see what's going to happen. Maybe Grogu decides, I don't want to do this Jedi thing. I just want to hang with my Mando daddy and go on adventures with you, Din. You're my daddy now, right? And, that could be the thing. And then obviously Grogu's probably going to outlive Din Djarin. Maybe when he gets, 150 years from there, maybe when he turns 75 and he's like a adolescent, the equivalent of a human adolescent, maybe then he hooks up with Rey or Ezra or who knows. And he's like, okay, I think I'm ready to be a Jedi now. My daddy's gone and I'm on my own and I've still got this Force thing. I guess it's time for me to go do it. Cause right, Yoda didn't become a knight until he was like 100. Right. So, I'm talking about when he's 75, that's 25 years as a Padawan. This kid's got nothing but time. Right. So that was an interesting article. I'm going to go do my swings and, I did 100 straight this morning and I said, we're doing 200 a day. I'm still gunning I'd really like to do 500, but the time thing and us packing up, trying to move to Bangkok and everything is making that difficult. So I'm going to probably knock out, I don't know, I'm going to try to do 250 tonight. So I got 150 more swings to go. Y'all do your swings, weigh yourself, measure yourself, do the swings, tag me on Instagram, post a little quick story, tag me. I'll share it with the rest of the community so they know that people are out here doing the work, getting ready for 2021, burning off all of the excess of 2020, right? Maybe some of y'all got the little COVID belly like I got. That was real. And, and we roll into 2021 ready to kick A and take names, right? So, thanks for going through this article with me. What did you like about it? What were some things that you've taken away from it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. and I'll be checking back to see what you all have to say. But that's all I got for this one. So thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Y'all keep on breathing, and I'll see you on the next video.